Hey everyone, welcome back to Rally Caps. It's a podcast for artists, entrepreneurs, and everybody in between. I'm Steven.
I'm Eric, and pretty useless in this episode.
That's not true literally at all. You came up with the idea for this episode.
Yeah, for you to talk about all
Well,
that stuff.
for us, because it's going to be interesting though, because I think this is a fun episode for us specifically to talk about, because there will be a lot of components that I think are maybe more recent additions for you. And the topic that we're talking about specifically is desk setups, how we operate when we are working in a studio versus on the road. We've done a few workflow related episodes recently and different, digital business tools that we use to help run our businesses. These are the actual devices that we're using and some of the more, less talked about pieces of gear that are just as important for us on a day-to-day basis when we're in the studio, and also how we use those things in conjunction with being on the road and working just as efficiently there. So yeah, that's kind of the name and game of today's episode, desk setups, broadly speaking. Before we dive into that, real quick, hey, Rally Caps members, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being on the team. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We love you all. We thank you for being here. And we're excited to chat about desk setups and the way that we work in today's episode. We work. I want to watch that show again.
I know, it's very good.
It was really well done.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by how good that was. Mm-hmm. We crashed.
Yeah.
That was an Apple TV original, right?
It was, yeah.
Really
I
good.
can't wait for Shrinking to come back.
Yeah, season 2 is official. Yeah. That was Jason Segel.
You haven't seen it?
No, I watched it.
Oh.
On your recommendation. And Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
So good. Jason is specifically so good in that show. Yeah. It's very reminiscent of, I'm forgetting his character's name.
I Love You, Man.
That and How I Met Your Mother. What was his character?
Oh, yeah, Marshall.
Marshall, yeah. He's iconic. So, okay, desk setups. Let's pull back the curtain even a little bit more. Okay. We're recording this on a Friday.
Yep.
3 days before you're listening to this episode. Yep. Why is that, Eric?
Why is it? Because you were gone.
We didn't have power in this studio literally until today.
Yeah. So we found out haven't been paying for electricity since we've
I don't know how that worked, to be honest.
We thought it was wrapped up in rent or something. And so we just came up here the other day.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, the power's not on upstairs. I'm like, oh no.
Why?
That's really bad. So that's finally on. So we're recording this semi-last minute. Also, that's not a plane.
No,
but we're also recording it during the practice day for the Air and Water Show in Chicago. So
you're going to hear the Blue Angels fly over a few times in this episode, most likely.
It's a silly, maybe a little chaotic episode. It's going to be fun.
It's quite literally 5 or 6 fighter jets flying over our building and rumbling the entire building.
Go onto any social media platform. You'll definitely see highlight videos of it. It's very cool.
Very cool.
Very loud if you're in the city. So hopefully you don't hear too much of that. But yeah, this is going to be a fun episode. We're recording it, a little last minute because of the power situation.
Why was that, Eric? I was like, I don't know.
I don't know, actually. It was my birthday this week also. So there's that component. There's a lot of moving parts happening in August right now. But
year of the 20s.
Last year of the 20s.
How do you feel about that?
I feel really good about it, actually. Yeah, I've never really had much, hesitation towards 30 or apprehension towards it. I kind of see this as a great way to finish out a certain decade. Like our friend Ryan Booth said in our documentary, we need milestones to mark chapters in life. And I like it as a milestone marker. I think it's cool to see it as, a way to conclude a certain period or chapter of life. But I'm not scared of it or anything, or it's just kind of cool, starting a new decade, what can be done in this 30 to 40 range instead. But yeah, I'll kind of probably be more introspective this year just to kind of think about how much has happened in this last decade of life in particular, because it's been just so much life has happened in that time. So I did get to take some time on Wednesday to reflect on some of that stuff, which was really, really nice, and to just look at old photos and take a trip down memory lane. So nice. 29 now, looking at 30 next year in 2025.
Yeah, baby.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, sweet. I think it's going to be cool. So thanks for asking.
Yeah.
So this episode was prompted by you suggesting this yesterday, actually. Yeah. What was the catalyst behind that suggestion?
So a company called BenQ reached out to me to potentially do a collaboration with a monitor.
Yep.
They have specifically designed monitors for photographers. I don't know the exact model number they sent me, but I just finally set it up yesterday. Sent it to me about a week before. I typically don't take things like this.
Yep.
But BenQ is the brand that we've used we have the same exact projector in the studio as my family does at home. And I love that projector.
Excellent projector.
Very, very nice. And so I'm like, well, if this monitor is anything on par with the quality that I've experienced with this company already, I basically messaged them back. I'm like, I'm not agreeing to a sponsorship yet. I want to just test it first. So they're like, yeah, absolutely. We'll send it. So
this episode is not sponsored by BenQ, by the way.
But I'll probably end up doing like at least the first 24, 48 hours with it. I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, I'm definitely one of those people where like, if one of those situations pops up, it lines up, it's a brand I already know or have affiliation to and feel like I can trust. And then I test it.
Yep.
I'm not one to be like, I need to test 5 more monitors.
Yeah. If it works, it works.
Yeah. So, and that's where it's really advantageous for both parties, I think. And I think how business should be done in our realm of, YouTube sponsorship and all that. Like, here, test the product, try it out. I never just want to do a blind sponsorship. That's like,
for sure.
Hey, check out this product, even though I've never really used it. So I want to get like a decent amount of reps. And so the timing lined up perfectly because I just got my Leica M6 CLA'd, cleaned, lubricated, and adjusted by YYE on the East Coast 3 months ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. Yeah.
And I went through 10 rolls of 35 mil film and just got all the scans back. So, I'm like hundreds of images back. And it was, just perfect timing. I wanted to set up the monitor and edit all the images with this monitor. And immediately it was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Because for the longest time in our previous unit in this building, like the first rendition of Creative Club.
Back in 2017?
2017 is when we started. I had a 2017 iMac. And that was my workhorse for photography. So I would...
Is it that same one? Oh, nice. Okay, yeah.
So, it had gotten retired through COVID. There was really no use for it anymore. It just wasn't powerful enough. The video editing was impossible on it with the specs that were on it. It was super slow. So it just kind of sat dormant on my desk. And every once in a great while, we would use it for transferring files or like watching something, or if I needed to look at something on a bigger screen. Barely using it at all. So it was basically just a prop on my desk.
And then Braxton put it to bed while editing the classroom on it. Now it barely powers up.
That was the thing that really... So 2021. So... Yeah, and then me being me, it was just kind of like, I'll do, we'll see, whatever. Like, I don't need a monitor.
Like, you'll make a MacBook screen work.
Yeah. And we did. Like, I edited my portion of the documentary on that screen, and then we watched it on your display when we needed to. We watched it on the projector when we needed to. So we had different sources and whatnot, but I just kind of, relegated all of my daily photo, video work to a laptop, which can totally do the job. Like, I fully believe that. The issue then is it motivating you to do work? And that's where I think when you get into creative work over a decade or a super long period of time, it's not so much is the tool capable, is the tool motivating.
For sure.
So that's where I'm at right now in just a couple of days with this monitor. I'm like, I've already ripped through almost all of those images between yesterday and today, editing them because I'm really excited to. Because the display is so beautiful.
How did it feel to look at all of those on a screen almost twice as large as your MacBook?
Just extremely different. Yeah. And even something as silly as emailing, like seeing it on a bigger screen.
Totally.
I don't know what psychological difference that is. Maybe it's just like I've felt the need of needing some change in my work. So it's just this kind of cataclysmic moment of like, yes, let's say yes to this. Let's try something new. And that experience, along with getting my Leica back, is getting me back into photography so much more than I had been the past 2 years because we were so focused on the documentary. So it just all feels right now. And I'm at my desk between yesterday and today more than I've ever been in the past probably year and a half.
I've never seen you sit at your desk so long.
So there's obviously something to be said about that. And it is feeling really reminiscent of my days in 2017 through 2020 in that old studio because I would sit at my desk in that way.
Yep.
I would use the iMac. I would not be on a laptop.
Yep.
So yeah, and that had to do in part with, and what we'll discuss is I didn't have the newest rendition of the MacBook Pro.
Right.
So it wasn't as powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I got the new MacBook Pro, it was like, oh, okay, this thing is, especially on the video editing front, as I did more video work,
it's
like I could bring it home, I could wake up early, video edit on the couch, like everything became more possible. I could edit raw on this thing, raw video, you know? So yeah.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest thing that we'll be touching on. And the biggest thing that we value in setups like this is that ability to have an extremely powerful laptop that you can then dock and effectively use like it's a desktop, but you still have the flexibility to just unplug and go home or go on a plane or go work on the road.
Continue the work.
Whatever it is, it's a really, really nice way to work. And the monitor component, I think, is such a game changer. This world of desk setup type things is something that I've loved for a very long time. I was really into like that YouTube niche for a long time as well. And it's something that I personally have a lot of fun like tinkering with, almost like Legos. It's just like building this like ideal little setup. Yep. So it's very fun to see you now kind of experience the beginning of that joy and like blinders off, like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is going to be so cool for my work going forward. That's another reason why I think it's cool to do this episode now, is to capture some of those feelings as you're experiencing them like for the first time right now. It's like, and then explore the possibilities of what could come next.
And it's not that I never clamshelled and like used a monitor with somebody else's monitor.
Yeah.
I've experienced that before. And I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
But I've never had one of my own.
Right. It's totally different when it's your own.
Yeah. With my own laptop on my own desk. And I'm like, oh, this is it just feels very different.
Because everything can be tailored to how you like to edit.
Yeah.
The way that you like things set up. You could add, we'll talk about all the accessories that you could add. But it's cool that it can just become your own space. Like your laptop is your own thing in its own right, but then to come to a studio space and be able to dock into something and have this totally transformative, like literally like just the UI of Premiere, for example. Like I'm excited for you to dig into that too, because like I have so much more real estate to work on.
Right.
All my panels are so much bigger. Like there's so much more room to see my media and my color grading panel, all these things. I think like once those things start to click, like you said, it's about the tools that inspire you. Yeah. And literally, well, our first thing is displays and monitors. So let's just like start with that. That having a larger monitor than a laptop is really one of those things that can just totally open up your world, because all of your apps will just expand to that. And suddenly you have all this real estate that you can work with. You can see your photos and your film scans with more detail than you were able to before. You can share them with friends in the studio in a way that you couldn't before. It's a really, really nice way to go about it. So we'll start with yours, BenQ. You don't know the specific model,
no,
but it's a
bunch of letters and numbers.
Yeah.
27-inch.
27-inch monitor.
And that was my first question to you, is like, what do you think? And this whole conversation is agnostic of what type of creative work you do.
Oh,
really.
Yeah.
Because I mean, between the two of us, we're spanning photography, filmmaking, both photo and video editing, design, audio, podcast editing.
It spans a huge gamut. Like this does not apply to just visual artists, audio too, absolutely, design, music, art, like any kind of creative person could benefit from a setup like this. Maybe you already have something along those lines. You'll find a new little piece to add, or you just are rocking a laptop right now and you're looking to maybe expand into something that could feel a little like easier and less like you're like a goblin like hunched over your laptop kind of thing. Just like, oh, like everyone knows like the long day. Oh my gosh, like feels like your neck is cranked into your ribs. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is the worst. Maybe this could be for you. We'll even talk about the desks as well. Literally everything that we use on a day-to-day basis.
The question.
What was your question?
Is, what is your recommendation of size of screen, I guess, relative to the creative work? Like, as a photographer and filmmaker needing 27 inches or more on screen real estate, or does a designer need something larger? What's your perspective on that?
So for reference, I have the Apple Studio display. It is not the $6,000, $6,000 one, just for the record, because that's the one that everyone talks about. This is the still expensive $1,500 Apple Studio display. It's a 27-inch 5K panel. I absolutely love it.
It's gorgeous.
It is it's everything that I'd want in a monitor. And as far as size is concerned, I think it's a pretty perfect sweet spot. I can speak for Bean because he previously had a 32-inch LG 4K monitor. He sold that and then got the same monitor as me. He does not miss the real estate and does really appreciate the benefits of the studio display, including the built-in FaceTime camera, the built-in speakers, and the gloss finish on the display as well. He thinks that's a worthwhile trade-off, and he's really liked that. I think for most people, 27 inches is like perfectly fine. I don't get into the super crazy like 3-screen, multiple, like one's vertical
Day
over
trading.
on the side. Yeah, literally is like, that's a little too much for me personally. And I prefer not to manage that much stuff going on. I also don't have a need for it. Like a colorist might want, a reference monitor versus like your kind of media ingest and then your timeline building and all that. But I think if you're looking for just a single monitor, 27 inches is more than enough, especially because it's going to feel relatively so much bigger compared to a laptop, a 14 or 16 inch MacBook or whatever it is. So I would say 27 is like perfectly fine.
So the thing I wrote down in here is I don't mean to start a battle or anything.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
But 99% of all creative people we know are all using Apple and not a PC for their computers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to argue about this.
Can we try? Is there anyone we can even think of right now?
Who has a PC?
Yeah.
I literally don't. I can't think of anyone who travels around with a laptop
that isn't
PC
a MacBook.
for creative work?
Definitely not. No. If anything, maybe someone we know has like a rigged out PC home rig for exporting stuff. But like as far as on the go, Braxton. As far as on the go, I don't know a single person that uses a PC laptop.
So then why
or
is
Windows
that?
based? Because Apple's better.
So just better.
It's prettier.
Yeah,
It's true.
but it's the same thing with function and form.
Yeah.
And what's going to motivate you to do work and the experience.
Yep.
You cannot discredit that. But then even further, the ecosystem. So then that's when I'm hearing you say Apple Display, and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to go with this BenQ monitor, is it really necessary to have an Apple Display in the ecosystem? Because I have an iPad, I have AirPods, I have an iPhone.
I wouldn't say necessarily. I think a display is one of those things.
It's almost that one thing where you're like,
It totally doesn't have to be at all. It's not like you get better AirDrop when you're using an Apple Studio display. The only benefit I think is that you're probably going to have a closer parallel between your laptop screen and your display. The thing that I like most about the Studio display is the fact that it has a gloss panel. I personally prefer that to a matte finish on a panel. It makes a big difference for me, and I think it gives me a better sense of what my work, when it is done and exported and out in the world, will look like, because everyone's consuming that on a gloss panel, phone, iPad, laptops, all that.
Do you ever feel like, because the advantage to the monitor I'm using now is a matte finish, which I actually really enjoy.
Yeah.
But from your perspective, what you said yesterday, you were looking at it from a 45-degree angle, and it looked like all the blacks were crushed in the image.
Yep.
When it doesn't look like that straight on, but it's advantageous in a scenario where there is light pouring in.
Totally.
And it's actually helping you see it better than a glossy.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're not concerned with that because our studio is so controlled light-wise. And you have the ability to just not have to worry about the sun coming through the window.
Yep. Yeah. Our depressing little box of a room. but no, that is true. If you are in a very sunny environment, you might want something that's going to negate that glare a little bit. Ideally, maybe try to work in a room that isn't going to have that much extra light pouring in. But if you can't avoid it, then maybe a matte display is going to be better for you.
Yeah.
And it's certainly going to be less expensive too. I think that's the other caveat here is I love the Studio display so much. If you can't afford it, do it. You will never be disappointed. I'm never going to get rid of it. It's amazing.
Right.
But also, it is $1,500. So, if that's not feasible for you, that's totally fine. Just go with something else. It's going to be a nice size. It's still going to look really good. Color accuracy on the BenQ is amazing. Yeah. It's not like you're missing out on any color necessarily.
Right.
But I think just name of the game is doing something that's going to be reasonable for you. It's not going to put you in a rough financial spot. and then just gives you more real estate to work on when you are in your working sessions.
And I'm also clamshelled right there, so I can just undock the computer and open it up and see what it looks like on the MacBook.
Yep.
You know, like, is this similar, comparable?
Yep.
AirDrop it to the phone, see what it looks like there. Like, you know, so yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about having the ecosystem of Apple AirDrop, especially in our situation.
Oh
every
my gosh.
single day I'm using AirDrop to send things to Cyrus, to send things to you, back and forth as we do collaborative work.
Yeah.
To not have to pass an SSD back and forth is insane.
Yeah. Apple gets flack for a lot of things, especially from, I think, maybe the Android side of the world, where they have had certain tech advantages for very long, and then Apple will try to normalize something, and it's like, oh, yippee, Apple finally did this one thing. They finally added a feature or whatever. But the walled garden of their ecosystem truly is a walled garden for a reason. I mean, like, once you get into it, it is very difficult to leave. And like you said, if the tool works for us, then we should just be using that thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, what is like spec for spec the best possible thing? It's like, if it works for your workflow, use that thing. It could be a PC. It could be a laptop that we don't know about, something that is awesome out there that's working great for your workflow, and that's amazing. Use that thing.
It makes me sad to see creatives spiral into this existence where they're constantly testing and retesting and finding the best thing, all while not making anything.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's people's shtick, like online. It's just like they're in gear, they're in tech, they're doing that thing. And if that's what you want to do, great. But like when we're looking at it from a creative, artistic perspective, not saying that you can't make that niche or that thing creative, because you totally can. But the whole meta, like circular creativity and all that is just like mind melting, and in my opinion tends to not be very sustainable. So yeah, I love subscribing to the like, is it good enough? Yes. And to Apple's point, it's just like, I pretty much know if I'm going to purchase this thing in their ecosystem, it's going to be more than good enough.
It's really going to work for the way that you work, specifically.
And it's not that they don't have stinkers. Like the last rendition of the MacBook Pro was horrible with the touch bar. 2016
to 2020 was brutal for them.
But was it better than any PC equivalent?
I don't think so, actually. I think at that time, that was when like a lot of PC Windows-based laptops and rigs were like actually thriving, because everyone kind of knew that the full USB-C ported laptops they were putting out with the touch bars were just
bad
booty.
Yeah.
Really not good. Tons of overheating issues and thermal throttling, all this stuff. And it was that era of Apple that really, I think, lit the fire underneath them to create their own ARM-based chips, the M1, M2, M3 silicon, Apple silicon. And now they make the best laptops available right now. I would say even for the money, they finally hit a place where they are like punching above their price point to a certain degree, or at the very least at their price point, and it is just the most efficient computer that you can get, whichever tier, Air, Pro, M1 Max, whatever. They're really incredible machines.
I meant to mention this earlier with your display. It's that the whole price argument is that, okay, so look at your $1,500 monitor versus a $600 monitor. If you can safely assume that monitor is going to increase the percentage output or desire of you working on it by 5%, it's already made its money back easily.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you have one more design job, you're paying for the difference. And if your setup isn't allowing you to actually get in the trenches and work that day because it's just that friction, there's something to be said about that. That's where the water gets murky. The argument becomes gray because you can't really always quantify what that extra spend means. And that's when it comes down to the individual of, I don't quote unquote need this thing, but I know myself well enough that if I purchase it, it will motivate me in this way.
That's huge.
And I do feel like that's for us really similar with all the gear conversation we've been having with you switching to Sony, with me getting my Leica back, these tools that actually get us excited about making and doing, where money starts to actually take a huge backseat in that regard. And I know a lot of people who are starting out in the creative world hear that and they're just like, what a privileged perspective to have. I don't have enough money to XYZ. And you're like, okay, well, get in the trenches, use what you have now, start making some money, and then see what that feels like on the other side of some consistency in a decade of work in this field.
Right. Yeah. It's stepping stones over time. And we always try to reiterate this, I think, on the show, but we'll say it again, like we're 10 years into this thing. We've 10 plus years into this thing. In your case, we've been doing this for a long time. We've had a lot of stepping stone moments and having to settle for things that we don't necessarily love, but we make work. And then you just muscle through it and you get on to the next thing. And hopefully that sparks the next opportunity and it just continues to cascade from there. So yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. I knew for me, like that's going to be worth the money to me because I'll never second guess whether this was the right choice for me. I'll never have a moment where I'm like, should I sell this and get something else? Or no buyer's remorse, literally at all.
And from an outside perspective and someone who observes your work, you're at your desk a lot.
I am.
Because you can tell you enjoy working in that spot.
I do. I really do. That was one, I guess, not regret, but one kind of, when I retired my 5K iMac and got a M1 Max MacBook like you did, I love everything about this, but I really do prefer working on larger screens in general. I like the space to kind of spread out and customize everything so it's going to work best for the way that I work. And sometimes that's hard to do on a smaller screen, even though it's a large screen for a laptop, it's smaller by comparison and things can kind of get crunched up and lost in translation. And we also even just like to share our work on larger screens. We like to watch videos together during the workday. We like to again, for the doc too. I bought it around the time, it's about a year and a half ago now when we started to really do critical work on the doc. And I thought it'd be a really helpful investment in that regard too, to be able to see it in conjunction with the monitors that I have on my desk as well. There's a lot of benefits to it. And if you really are trying to justify it, I will say this too, the built-in speakers are excellent. And it does have, like I said, a FaceTime camera built in as well. So that is effectively two purchases that you wouldn't have to make separately if you wanted a webcam and speakers. If you treat it as like an all-in-one display, maybe that is the price difference right there between a monitor that you're looking at and the studio display, where you're like, okay, well, I just will forego those other accessories and treat the studio display as like an all-in-one kind of thing. But yeah, because it's simply a display and no processing power is in it, it's really kind of a buy it for life kind of purchase where I will never not be able to use it.
Pretty insane.
And that's great.
And we're now at a resolution era where it's like, I don't think you really need more than 5K.
No, it's a 5K panel. That's going to be great for such a long time. So the one thing I will say that I've been wanting to add for a long time, and I feel has been the weak spot in my desk setup specifically, is a backlight behind. I used to have one on my iMac. It was actually a Philips Hue light that I had 3M'd onto the back arm that holds the light up. And I used that to kind of just add a little bit of glow behind the screen to reduce eye fatigue, because it's nice to have a little bit of contrast behind, I reduce contrast behind the screen so that it's not just this big wall of light that's blasting out to you. It actually helps reduce that area of like concentrated light and instead spreads light behind the panel as well. So that is one thing I've been researching for a little while, trying to figure out what's going to like attach best to the back of it and also draw power from a good resource, because I'm actually out of outlets and my power strip that's attached to my desk right now. So that is one thing that I would recommend to anyone, though, who already has a monitor and doesn't already. It does a tremendous job helping reduce eye fatigue during long editing sessions in particular, whether that's a warm light or just like a cool light splashed behind your monitor. Something to reduce that strain is going to make a noticeable improvement in longer editing sessions.
I would assume you'd probably want a pretty neutral colored temperature light behind, right? So it's not messing with your ability to look at color correctly on the monitor.
Yeah, I mean, I never really had too much of a problem with it. I would, because it was a Hue bar, I was able to kind of temperature match it to the room that I was in. It wasn't full RGB, but it was a sliding like 2700 to 5600 Kelvin, I think was the range that it had. So when I had it in my home office in Massachusetts, I could kind of balance it to whatever it was in there. And then when I was in Creative Club and still using my iMac, I could do that as well. But yeah, if you can have oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of what that light is. Wow, that's a total brain fart. No, it's a bicolor. Yeah, bicolor light to kind of like really dial it in. I think that'd be really great. Okay.
Audio.
So that's all displays. Audio. What are you using for audio right now? Headphones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Audio-Technica cans. We have a bunch floating around the studio.
Yep.
If I need to like dial in something, a film, otherwise I'm just AirPods Pro.
Cool. Yep.
Which I don't know if you knew this. Last week I went out for a run in the morning, just a 4 mile, and just got caught in a hailstorm. It was bad.
What?
Yeah.
A hailstorm?
It was like, it looked kind of ominous when I went out, but I looked at the weather app and it was like, it's not going to rain. I'm like, okay.
It said no hail.
Yeah. And so I start running, and 2 miles in, it starts downpouring. So I take my AirPods out, put it in my side pocket of my half tights, and then it starts hailing. Get home, stops raining. Great. And then I realized there's a hole in my side pocket and one of the AirPods fell out.
No, wait, really?
Yeah. And then I saw that one of them, it was on the route of my run.
It showed you the location of just one of them?
One.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh. So I went back and I surveyed the entire intersection where it said it was.
Yeah.
And I thought back, I'm like, I hadn't taken my AirPod out of my ear at this point yet. And then I realized it was in the sewer underneath the ground.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer.
Oh, okay.
You're like, well, new AirPods for me.
Yeah.
Did you go out and get new ones
That day, it was prime one day. I had them by the evening.
Yeah, there you go.
It was just like one of those painful, like, just buy it.
You're like, don't look at it. Don't look at it.
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
But that goes to show, like, I will delay changing the oil in my car for 2 weeks. But in that moment, I was like, between running and work, I have to have these.
Yep.
I don't want
It's a non-negotiable.
Yeah. So it was a business expense, obviously. So I'm like, well, at least there's that. But yeah, that evening had them for my next run and then work the next day.
Nice.
And I've had the privilege of testing and having every version of the AirPods.
Okay.
So the original, I accidentally bought version 2 thinking they were a different version of them Pros when they first came out.
Oh, okay.
And so Sabria, my wife, ended up just using those. And I think AirPods are so easy to screw up, like putting them in the wash and stuff.
Oh, I mean, they're so light.
It sucks. That part of it sucks.
That's my rule for myself with them, is that I always have to put them back in the case. Like, I don't let myself put them in my pockets, because I will absolutely forget them in my pockets if I do.
That's my other problem, is sometimes I'll do that in a run. I'll put it in the back pocket of my half tights, and then they just go to the wash.
Just throw it, Yep.
So yeah, I got into that pair. I think I had for a solid year and a half.
Okay.
So I was like,
those are Pros.
Good. Yeah.
Pros 2?
Pro 2.
Pro 2.
Yeah. And they started to get kind of funky. Like, they weren't doing the whole, like, when you take them out, the whatever you listen to stops. It just kept going.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the Bluetooth also connected through when they were in the case.
Oh, what?
So they probably needed to be,
Sounds like they went on one too many hail runs.
But actually,
Maybe,
I think like because I ran in them so much, they would get water damage and
Yeah.
sweat and that stuff over time.
Yep.
They were still perfectly functional. But the point I'm trying to get to is rendition 1 and 2, great, like Bluetooth headphones. But as soon as you experience the spatial awareness and noise canceling, game over.
You mean regular AirPods versus the Pros?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially on an airplane.
Yes. Oh,
Crazy.
The noise cancellation's crazy to me. It's so effective. And the transparency mode, I think, is my favorite part on that, because it just feels like you don't have headphones in.
Yeah.
Which is insane, which I'm sure on runs is super helpful for you, so you can stay aware as you're moving.
I'm the dangerous one that does noise cancellation.
You put noise cancellation on while you're running?
I'd never put it on transparency mode.
Wait, really?
Never.
Dude, transparency mode is amazing. Oh, it's so nice.
No, I just want to have everything blocked out.
Real? Oh, my, you need to try it, though. It's so good.
Maybe.
Do you ever use it when you're watching like a movie on your iPad where it's tracked to your head so that it
turns? Yeah.
So when you turn, it makes it as if that's like the source of audio. It's so cool.
Yeah.
The first time it happened to me, I was on a plane. I didn't know I was in this mode, and I was so confused. Like every time I would I was like talking to the attendant. I was like, wait, is this moving with my head right now? It was so trippy.
And then you're like, wait, are my AirPods even on?
Yeah, I was like, wait, is this just playing in the airplane? And I'm just
whole time it's been on full blast.
A total idiot. Like, and I take him out. It's like, no, it paused. Okay, put him back in. every time I move my head, it's moving with me. It's
and
great.
someone's watching you and you're just like,
yeah. They're like, wow, this guy's watching Inception for the first time. It's crazy. So yeah, okay. So AirPods, Audio-Technica, ATH. I think we have the M50Xs. Those are like industry standard cans.
I had the Sony Bluetooth noise canceling weird name ones for a while, but they like the Bluetooth on them broke. Okay. So they're just like plug-in cans now.
Gotcha.
I don't find them as good as the Audio-Technicas.
Yeah.
So. It seems like the Audio-Technicas are industry standard.
Oh, they very much are.
Yeah, for like anybody who I have come into contact with who knows sound and does sound engineering or any kind of live mixing, live performance. Everyone that I've seen and talks about Audio-Technica.
They have been for a long time too. They were the first. I felt so special in high school buying these because it's when my band was recording music and we were like in studio and stuff. I wanted my own pair of headphones that I could record on my own and record with our band. And I splurged on them. I think they're like $150. It felt so expensive. But I still had that same pair. They still work just as well as they do now, or then now. Mm-hmm. The only difference is that the headband has almost entirely fallen apart. Yeah. So it's just all gaff tape on the top band of it. But they're amazing. They still sound great. They work perfectly well. But I've had them for 10 years. Yeah. And I just keep them as like backup headphones now. The only difference that I think Audio-Technica has made for the M50 line is that the headphone cord is now removable, which is actually really helpful. My pair that I bought in high school, it's just hardwired into it. So if the cord were to go, can't use them anymore. Yeah. But at least with the X version that we have, if the cord breaks for whatever reason, or you just want a longer cord, you can also like customize the way that you use them. So you could put like a coiled one in or like a super long cable if your interface is really far away. Really great headphones though. I think for the price, they're pretty hard to beat. So we love those. Also want to shout out, I have a pair of reference monitors on my desk, and I was looking for, there's the plane, there he is. I was looking for essentially the smallest monitors I could possibly find that still sounded good because my desk isn't huge. I think they're all like 48 inch, like 4 feet wide desks. So I settled on the iLoud micro monitors, and they are absolutely phenomenal. They are super, super small. They like say micro and they mean it. Like they are really tiny. They take up very little space, but they sound absolutely incredible. They have one of the worst names ever. iLoud feels so dumb. Because it's shaped like the same like iPod. It's like lowercase I and then loud.
How are they not sued by Apple?
I don't know actually. Maybe they are. Maybe they are. Who knows? iLoud though, micro monitor. You can find a ton of YouTube videos about these monitors. Everyone says the name is dumb, but like they genuinely are an incredible product, and they have, I think, kind of like a legendary status amongst audio people, being fairly inexpensive monitors for the pair of them, really small, so you can put them almost anywhere, and sounding just unbelievably good for the size. Like it doesn't sound like the sound that comes out of them should be coming from such a small source, but they're really great for small desk setups. You can get like a matching pair. I bought mine used on reverb.com for the pair for $200. I think brand new they go for $350 for the pair, but you can probably find a used pair somewhere. And I think if you want like a good pair of monitors to listen to your work back, video editing, you can't do any better than those. They are really excellent monitors. And then I run those into my Universal Audio Apollo Solo, which is just an audio interface. You absolutely don't need that. That's just an extra thing that I like to use because it is easier for me to record music when I choose to do that through that interface. Really good preamps and plugins that are included in the Universal Audio suite. I love it. Great interface, but by no means is it necessarily. You can actually use the micro monitors. They come with a 3.5 mil option. So you could actually, if you really wanted to, you could just plug them into your laptop, into the headphone jack. I'm not headphone jack, it's the audio jack there. And you could play it through that if you wanted to. So yeah, there's lots of flexibility with the monitors. The interface is not necessarily necessary, but any musicians out there or people that just want a little more customization over their like audio workflow, I think the UA Apollo is like a really, really good choice for that. Okay, desks. IKEA, baby. That is the kind of like standard desk that we have in the studio.
Yeah.
At least that was what the original Creative Club was built on, right?
Yeah, we got the IKEA standing desks with the crank levers. You just rotate it up and down, standing or sitting.
Yep.
Really cheap option. I think they float around $100.
Yep.
I splurged for my home desk and have a fully, and that's a motorized up and down. Do you have a fully downstairs?
Fully, yeah.
And the chairs were. Do you have your fully chair?
Yeah, right here. Yeah, that's what
the
we
fully
record.
chairs. Yeah, we're always like wobbling back and forth.
These things are awesome.
They're
these
incredible.
These stools are called the Luna, and they are awesome.
Yeah, I love this chair. I brought it up here, and then now that I might just bring it back down or bring it up and down.
Yeah.
Whenever we record, now that I'll be at my desk more. It's just so nice to be able to move your body instead of being in one place. But yeah, I've had the IKEA desk for 7 years now. It's fine. It's great.
Yep.
I mean, it's not fun to like have to hand crank up and down. It's nice to have the button just go. But
I think on a budget, you can't really beat it.
No.
Like you don't. I love my Foley. It's amazing. I switch between standing and sitting often enough that I find it to be worth it, and I like the look of it. It's great. But you totally don't need to spend the money on an electric one. I think if you, at the very least, just like try the hand crank option.
Yeah, it's a workout too.
It is. If you find yourself switching between the two a lot, you're like, okay, that's the litmus test. Maybe I should invest in an electric one. But I think for most people, if you just want to be standing most of the time, and then you could get a stool like this that extends really high so that you can kind of be in a half seated, half standing position. You don't need to spend the $700 or $800 that fully desks are. Yeah. So there are definitely other budget options out there, but yeah, desks don't have to be crazy. It's just something that works for you.
But highly recommend standing, sitting option.
100%. Yeah. The I don't know about you. I just feel so productive being able to stand and edit at the same time. And I feel more inclined to take breaks too, actually, in a good way, where I'm already standing. So I'm also just going to go refill my water bottle while this thing's exporting and just get some extra water, move around a little bit, go out, see the natural light in the rest of the studio, come back. It just encourages me to be a little more active throughout the day. So really enjoy that. Do you think you will do that when you kind of build out your desk setup with the BenQ and everything a little bit more? Do you think you'll keep it in the standing position more, or will you bounce back and forth?
I tend to, when I work at desk, I tend to sit a whole lot more than stand, just because most of the time I'm marathon training. And so while that's good to still have time on feet, my legs are really tired. Like especially now when I'm going July to October. Yeah, like my legs are trashed. I'm doing like 25,000 steps a day.
For sure.
So yeah.
You don't really need it.
No. I definitely don't need to be standing. My legs get plenty of work otherwise. So, yeah, and that's new for me. Like, I haven't trained that hard in years past. I love having the standing desk option. I agree that I am, I think, more productive. But when I am in the midst of training, I don't know if I actually am more productive when I'm standing.
For sure.
Because if I'm feeling fatigued and like my back hurts, I'm like, I'd rather like be sitting and moving like this on one of these chairs.
Can't stress enough how fun these stools are. They're really great. Also, we've floated a lot of names of stuff out throughout the episode. We will link everything below so you can just do a little laundry list fact check on everything that we're doing. If you're interested in any of those products, we will leave links below.
Sweet.
Hard drives, storage.
So fun.
Fun stuff. Cool stuff. I'll start with the thing that we have in common, which is the Blue Angels soaring overhead right now. The thing that we have in common between our two storage setups are the Seagate Iron Wolf Pro hard drives. Just get them. Use them. They're the best, highest performing hard drives that you can get for the money. Like just get those drives with whatever enclosure you decide to do. What enclosure do you put your Iron Wolves into?
I have a Synology NAS.
Network attached storage.
I knew that.
Wait. Yeah. Wait. For sure. Yeah.
Totally knew that.
It's attached to a network, dude.
I totally knew what those letters stood for.
Ethernet straight into the wall.
Yeah. I know everything about this subject.
Yes. This is actually something I don't have one personally.
I know very little about my NAS. I just bought it because Braxton told me to. And it's been...
You've had zero problems.
Well,
no. It has been good for the most part.
For the most part, has been great.
Yeah.
Having 80 plus terabytes of storage, pretty great.
It's a 6-bay. Did we get you
12,
16 or 20s in each one?
16s in each.
16s in each. Okay. So 6 times 16 is 96.
Nice.
It is actually.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, and there's, You can't tell how much space I don't even know how much space I've used up on it because you need to like go to Synology's website to figure that out.
Oh.
This is what Braxton tells me.
Okay.
I just been filling it up.
Cool.
I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, nearly 100 terabytes should go a long way, even with the dock on there.
Right, because the dock is 15, 16. And then I go through now that I'm not shooting as many weddings, I'll probably have 10 a year.
Yep.
So I'm guessing it's at around 50 right now.
Yeah.
45 or 50.
This is a quick aside, but what's like the average file size for a Floberg Runs YouTube video? How many gigs of footage are you shooting per video?
Completely depends, because if it like right now we're in an episode where we're filming the entire week.
Okay.
So it's like every day we're doing something, and it's multimedia.
Yep.
The biggest thing is when we're shooting C70 in studio and Cyrus's FX3 out on a workout. So at the most, we're looking at like 300 gigs.
Okay.
Maybe 400.
Yep.
And then at least 150.
Cool.
Like if it's just a more pared down like GoPro episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
that'll build up.
Eat into that storage for sure when you're posting weekly. Okay.
Yeah, but I'd say most of the time it's 250 to 300.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Very cool. And how do you have those drives partitioned in your NAS? Are they redundant in any capacity?
No.
It's just one block.
Yeah, I literally just have a work folder and a doc folder.
Okay.
So there's doc in one partition that's just there, and then everything else is work, and then it's all organized in the work folder as well.
Cool.
You can have access to Wi-Fi through it. You have Ethernet cable running all the way from our internet in the other room. I very rarely use the Wi-Fi feature on it to transfer stuff because it's just so slow.
Yeah, that's what people champion as the benefit of NAS systems, is that you can access your files remotely.
If looking at it from where I'm at now and what I know about it, I would prefer having your setup over mine.
Okay. Yeah.
So I feel like once I fill all this up, I might just retire it and then move to something simpler.
Yeah.
Because I know people access their NASs through the Wi-Fi remotely.
Yeah.
I've never done that. I've never cared to set that up because I just don't really work from home. I do, like once every 2 weeks, but it's always just with an SSD that I have in my backpack.
Right.
I don't need to be accessing all the files that are on my NAS.
Yeah. It almost feels a little different too for us in particular when we have laptops that we're docking and then bringing home that more often than not are working
4 terabytes.
Right. Yeah. We have 4 terabytes of storage in each of our laptops. And when we have our working projects, we keep that stuff just locally on there. And then we'll usually move older stuff to an SSD and then from an SSD to the archive drive. So yeah, maybe not as necessary.
I have 6 or 7 active SSDs.
Yeah.
Through the dock needed to do that for speed and space.
Yep.
I do not regret 4 terabytes in my MacBook Pro at all. I knew once that was an option, I almost went for 8.
Yeah.
But I knew, because I've had to clear it multiple times. But yeah, knowing that we would shoot raw video that, if a YouTube video alone is going to be 250 to 300, you do 10 of those, all of a sudden you're like 3/4 full. So yeah, I have zero regrets in that regard. Super easy to clear stuff. Again, like quickly offload on an SSD, trash, keep working. And then in the background, I can just be like transferring the SSD to the NAS. That's what was really good about having the iMac is I could just let that be, it could literally be doing 2 terabytes in the background. And I could just be working on my MacBook. And that was honestly like the only reason I kept it around in the way, and it's still here. So like maybe, but probably not.
I think those computers are cool for data management specifically though, if you wanted to. It's like its own device that can just kind of like run 24/7 if you needed it to. It's like your own little, like Backblaze.
Right.
You know, it's like your own little locally stored Backblaze kind of thing where you can just put stuff over there. It's not taking up any time or bandwidth on your computer. It's just strictly data over there, which is kind of interesting.
Like it can be slow. That's fine.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, there were multiple times where like Shu and I would have a whole day where we would just be offloading stuff onto that, and we could both be functional on our laptops.
Yeah, which is nice.
And so yeah, it's very specific to a workflow. Like not everybody needs that, but if you have an old computer and don't want to retire it for a reason like that, could be a good reason to keep one around. If you are dealing with terabytes of storage.
I totally agree. Yeah. The setup that you referenced that I have is similar but different in the sense that it doesn't have the NAS capability. There's no Ethernet. There's no remote accessibility of files. But I more or less have made my own RAID system in a way. I use an enclosure. It's just a 2-bay enclosure from a company called Sabrent. And I honestly wish more companies made enclosures like this. Like it seems like there is a hole in the market for these types of things in particular. I think my ideal world is something like a combination of what we both have, where it's a 6-bay kind of thing, but it doesn't have any of the NAS stuff, no Ethernet to deal with, no potentially uploading through the wireless connection versus the wired connection and stuff like that. I just don't personally need that. I don't really want to deal with that, but I do want more space to put more drives into it. So this is a good compromise for right now. It's a 2-bay. I have two 16 terabyte Seagate Ironwolf Pro drives in there. And the thing I really like about it is that you can set this enclosure to read each of those drives as independent drives with one USB-C cable out.
Yeah.
So it only takes one cable to have two separate drives in there. And the reason I like that, there are actually like RAID settings on the enclosure if you want to have a traditional RAID setup. I personally don't want that either because I just am kind of particular with media and I really like to have full control over it. So that one USB-C cable goes out to my Thunderbolt dock, which I'll talk about in a sec. But each of those drives come up as a separate drive in my Finder on Apple. And then I use a separate piece of software called Carbon Copy Cloner. And I can essentially automate tasks in there to just run data management and background transferring without me having to think about it. It's extremely customizable. I have it set to just back up daily. And it will just take everything that's on drive 1 and just copy it over to drive 2. It intelligently analyzes both of those things. And it will just exactly mirror what's on the first one to the second one. And then there's even a safety net setting that you can enable as well, so that anything that it analyzes that it think like might be a duplicate, but it doesn't want to delete it just for the sake of you not having to deal with something like that. It'll just put that in a separate folder in the destination drive. And then you can kind of review that stuff manually if you choose to. You can get super granular with the setup on that, but I love that software. I've been using it for the majority of my photo career. Mark Spooner put me onto it, actually. I think it's an excellent piece of software, and you can just build all these tasks and then just have set times throughout the day that they'll run on their own. Really cool. Can't recommend that enough. I really like that setup, but I do wish there was like a low profile way that I could have more drives stored. So that's the only downside.
16 redundant is just not as much space as you'd want.
Yeah. I think for me right now, at least, I think 16 terabytes for a year is enough. But I wouldn't mind having multiple years accessible all at the same time.
It's been phenomenal to have
that is one thing I'd love.
Every time we need to go into the archive, it's so easy.
Yeah.
And that happens in the running stuff all the time.
For sure.
Whenever I reference an old race, another year, we have all of that available. So that's incredible. And with the dock, like all the source footage, 15 terabytes of it. So yeah, all that is amazing. But to your point earlier, that's the really tough part with the Synology setup with Wi-Fi. Is hardlined in transfer speeds are acceptable. Wi-Fi, crazy slow. And it will default to Wi-Fi. Like even if you are plugged in, it will just default to Wi-Fi. And it's so frustrating. So you'll start a copy and you're realizing it's on Wi-Fi. There's no way to tell. You're Thunderbolt in and still. And so you cancel it, which is always terrifying. And then you have to turn off Wi-Fi, eject, hardline back in. With Wi-Fi off, start the transfer again, and once it's initiated, then you can turn the Wi-Fi back on. And then keep working. So like that workaround is so obnoxious. I mean, you figured out how to do it, but
it's one of those pain points. You're like, why do I have to deal with this?
It's like I spent a lot of money on this machine. It should be able to intelligently know that when I'm hardwired in, I obviously want to use the hardwire, not the Wi-Fi.
Why else would you be plugged directly into?
And there's like we've gone into preferences and tried to figure, and we've found no way to tell it not to default to Wi-Fi. It just does.
Yeah.
So.
Braxton, who is very into NAS
Yes.
systems, he has the exact same problem. He's
Yeah.
like, it's so dumb. Every time I have to make a big transfer, I do the same thing. He just turns off Wi-Fi, starts it. Once it's started, turns Wi-Fi back on. Like that seems like a silly workaround that has to exist.
And this is the conflicting part because they reached out to me to do a sponsorship, and I'm like, I do love this product, but I'm torn because I don't necessarily want to recommend it.
Sure.
I would love to recommend something like what you have because that's what I would want.
Sure.
And totally fits my workflow better because I'm not the person to promote a NAS that has the Wi-Fi capability because I don't use it.
Right.
And I thought I might, I'll make those purchases a lot being like, oh yeah, I'll learn how to, and then I just don't.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that it wasn't a smart purchase or a good purchase. It's served me really, really well. And I don't have to think about it for years.
Yep.
I don't have to swap out drives, that stuff. And then, you can make all the arguments about me not having stuff backed up. All the dock stuff is backed on other solid state or spinning disk drives, like the little lacy 4 terabyte ruggeds. So that's taken care of. But like, I'm also one of those people where I'm like, if I lost a lot of the work I did the past few years, like I don't feel like I reference it enough or need it as much outside of the edits that I keep on my computer and Vimeo and PicTime galleries where I'm like, it wouldn't be the end of the world.
The most important thing is that your client stuff is safe.
And it is.
Yeah.
And contractually, in every single one of my contracts, it says that I delete data permanently 30 days after delivery of a project.
Which you haven't even done.
No.
Yeah.
So contractually, I'm set, like I'm fine, but it's just a matter of caring about having your raw photos, raw video. And most of the time it just takes up a ton of storage and you never do anything with it.
Raw footage in particular.
Yeah. I'm one of those people that's like, doesn't mind kind of gambling with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I have lost, like I've had one copy of stuff in the past on those lacy drives that have just died.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even tell you what I've lost.
Yeah.
So if that's not an indicator of like, does it really matter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's at least my perspective. I know you feel very differently about that.
Very differently, but that's okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So we have covered displays, audio, desks, hard drives, and I guess we mentioned our laptops a lot, but you and I both have, the only difference is the color between our laptops. Literally everything else is exactly the same. First generation M1 Max, MacBook Pros, 16 inches, 4 terabytes of internal storage, and then the CPU, GPU, everything is just spec'd out to the max.
64 of RAM.
64 gigs of RAM.
And
it
doesn't feel outdated at all.
No, it feels awesome. It's very good
it's still. Very, very functional.
Yeah, and they're almost 3 years old.
Yeah.
Did we get them? I guess we got them like early 22, I think is when ours shipped at least. I think you got yours around like January.
Yeah,
like first month of the year or something like that in 22. Yeah. We've had them for like 2.5 years though.
I remember when I first got it, I was like, I have the R5 now, so I'm going to shoot an 8K film and edit it on my new, and I could.
You could, yeah.
And it was crazy. And it horrible to deal with data-wise, and the amount of footage, just space, crazy.
Yeah.
But like the image on that was so beautiful.
Completely absurd.
So it definitely felt like, oh, well, this is a new realm of possibility at the very least. I'm glad I at least tested that.
Yep. Yeah. So that is everything at the highest level and the most important things, I would say. Laptops, displays, audio, desks, hard drives, just to reiterate all of that. We'll just get into a nice little section to finish things up, which is essentially a catch-all tray of just extra accessories that you and I both use and really enjoy. I'll start one just briefly to talk about. It's the Anker Thunderbolt 4 mini dock. That's the dock that I referenced earlier. It's what my hard drives plug into. It's what my studio display plugs into, and it's what my Universal Audio Apollo Solo plugs into. So that when I have one cable plugging out of that dock into my laptop recognizes it, powers all of those things on. Everything just flicks on with a switch, and I'm in my full workflow.
And you're just using one USB port.
One port. Yep.
And it's charging your laptop.
Correct.
Crazy.
Yeah. I basically end the day always with a full battery, which is awesome because I'm going home and usually doing a little bit more work, so I don't have to worry about charging it. And then, it's delivering all of the necessary power delivery to kind of just boost things on at least, and like say, hey, I'm here. Like, I'm a laptop. Work with me, please, kind of thing. Because the dock actually needs that. The dock is a Thunderbolt either 3 or 4 compatible, and it does actually get bus power through that. And then the display is in, which is an out, and then the hard drives as well. I have one USB-A port remaining on that if I wanted to use it, but I chose this one because it was like $120. And it had all of the ports that I needed, at least. Like, I don't need anything more than that.
Yeah.
I still have access to the SD card reader on my laptop when I'm plugged in. And there's actually an SD card reader in the enclosure that I use for my drives as well. So, and then if I really need to, I can plug an extra little USB-C out on my laptop. Because the way that I have it on my desk, I still have access to the ports. So I think it's a really good value dock. Those docks can get really expensive, like $300 or $400. And if you have, I guess, like a much more complicated setup, sure. But if you want to keep things pretty simple, I think for $120, $130, that Anker mini dock is a really good value. And that's all Thunderbolt 4 compatible too. So definitely future-proofed in that sense. Number 2, a digital timer. I love this little thing. It is amazing. It was like $15 on Amazon. And it's just I think it's intended for kitchens actually. So you can time yourself while you're going through a recipe. And I just use it to work in little work sprints. I think we actually talked about it a couple months ago on, I want to say it was like the Creativity Needs Boundaries episode where we were talking about just like workflows in studio with other people around. I really like it because it's a way to keep myself accountable to a specific thing that I'm working on at any given time. And I usually will work in like 20-minute sprints, depending on what the specific thing is. I'll just set a timer, work on that one thing for 20 minutes. That's all I'm focused on. Timer goes off, take a little break, drink some water, and then move into the next thing. I love that little thing. It is so fun. And it's magnetized, so it just sticks to the side of my desk, and then I'll put it up on top when I need it. And it's awesome. What keyboard and mouse do you use with your setup now that you are docking with a monitor?
It's just my old Magic keyboard and trackpad.
Okay. Oh,
from
nice. Okay.
the 2017 iMac I was using. It's been 48 hours. I haven't been using them for a long time, but I don't like the trackpad.
Oh, okay.
For a long time with that iMac, I would just use an actual click mouse.
Okay. Yeah.
So I might go back to that. I have to figure that out. I might just want to get brand new things. Or find some sort of, because I'm noticing when I'm using the trackpad, it's like sliding around the desk.
Oh, okay.
And so that's super annoying to have to like do 2 hands and hold it.
For sure.
And that just could mean I put sticky things on the bottom and it doesn't move then. I mean, because it's very comparable to, I mean, I'm so used to the trackpad on the laptop because that's how I have been working for the past 2.5 years, 3 years. But Bluetooth immediately connected. It was perfectly fine. So
I think it's Marquez Brownlee that's like a huge advocate for having both a trackpad and a mouse, so you can use all the gestures that you can use on like an Apple trackpad, and then also have all the mobility of a mouse.
I fully agree with that sentiment of the trackpad, at least to do 3-finger swipe or to pinch zoom.
Yes,
because I use those a lot in video and photo editing. So to not have that ability and constantly be doing plus minus a bunch of times is super annoying. So, and again, it's all of that fluid language that you're so used to when working in a system for years that you don't even realize you're doing until you change the setups.
Yes.
And then you're like, you're like crippled all of a sudden. You're like, I can't. What?
You're like, how do I do this thing again? Wait, what's the button that makes this go this way?
And then you're in Lightroom, you're like, where's the zoom thing?
Yeah.
Like, I would never have to hit zoom manually with a mouse. Like, this is, and then everything feels like it's thrown off. So I would want to avoid that as much as possible. So that makes me think that it is one of those things where I'm like, I don't think a new purchase of something else, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think a new purchase of a keyboard or a trackpad is going to do that much more for me.
Yeah.
So it's more of just like, how do I make sure that this isn't sliding around the desk?
For sure.
And I know Marquez is a huge advocate of like clicky keyboards.
Yeah, he's got his mechanical keyboards too.
Which Braxton has downstairs, which I love the sound of.
It's a doozy.
Emails are so fun to listen to with him. AirPods.
Oh, it's great.
Pro.
Yeah.
But what's yours?
I use the Logitech MX what MX Keys Mini and the Logitech MX Master 3S mouse. The mouse in particular has kind of got like a reputation for being a really good mouse. I had the Master 2S for a number of years when I lived in Massachusetts. I loved that mouse. I misplaced it when we moved. And so when I kind of got back into a docking system and wanted a keyboard and mouse again, got the 3S, just the updated version of that. And it's amazing. I absolutely love it. And then the MX Keys Mini is awesome as well. Really good battery life. Has a little bit more like key travel to it than the Apple Magic keyboard, but it's fairly comparable to it. I would say overall it feels like this one in particular, Logitech made quote unquote for Mac. It's like the Mac version because it has more of a like, metal and white aesthetic to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it looks like it would exist in an Apple ecosystem. So I really like it. It's great. The thing I really enjoy about the mouse in particular actually is that it has a number, well, not only is it very comfortable, it has a lot of programmable keys on it that you can customize to be whatever you want. But that includes like a button that sits underneath your thumb while you're moving the mouse around, and you can use that for shortcuts that you might have with the trackpad. So I can still do like effectively a 3-finger swipe by just clicking the button with my thumb, and it does the same thing where it just shoots everything out. I click back into one program, comes back in. So it's nice to have like a workaround to missing the trackpad because, like you said, I love those gestures.
Yeah.
They become second nature after a while. So I like that the mouse at least gives you an option to kind of program back in some of those gestures just with a click of a button. But other than that, it's got like a little side-scrolling horizontal wheel too, which is kind of nice for navigating timelines sometimes. But more than anything, it's comfortable and it works.
Both of those are charged via USB-C.
USB-C, yep.
And not on the bottom of the mouse.
Not on the bottom of the mouse, that's correct.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify.
On the front, like where it would belong.
Like where it should be.
Where you might think it would go.
You could use it while it's charging.
Yes, I can, which is really nice, actually.
It's in reference to the Apple mouse.
The dumbest design ever. Crazy.
It's so funny whenever anybody posts about that. Same thing every time.
It never gets old.
So
just on its back like a turtle with a thunderbolt.
But it only takes like 15 minutes to charge or something.
Yeah, it's fairly low friction, which is good. But yeah, no, I like that Logitech setup a lot. I also keep a little Uplift. I think it's, the company Uplift. They're another standing desk company. Actually, Fully doesn't have their own version of this, but it's a really just nice compact metal shelf that I drilled into the bottom of my desk just as a little extra compartment to store drives, cables, and general desk clutter. So it's out of the way. I really like that. I use a cutting mat, like an arts and crafts cutting mat.
Might need to be what I do.
Yeah, I think you'd love it. Yeah. Just to keep everything a little more
I love the aesthetic
in place.
Of it too.
Yeah. I've been using one of those for a long time. I've gone through different versions. I had a much larger one in Massachusetts, again, when I was working there because my desk was much bigger. So I just scaled it appropriately. But it's really fun. It's like an arts and crafts. Like the brand doesn't matter. Just go on Amazon. You can find one for maybe $20 or something like that. And then last thing, what we both love, just sticky notes and Sharpies.
Sticky notes all over.
Dude, everywhere.
My favorite pen, I don't know why I started that sentence because I don't know where it's ending.
You know it.
It is
it starts with P.
Pen. 15.
That's my
club.
favorite pen. Pen. No, ew. Pen.
It is.
You know it.
Pilot. .05.
Is it the .0? It is the .05.
I like the finer one.
Yes.
07's the thicker.
The thicker one.
Yeah, I like the .05.
Is it the G2? Is that the series?
Sounds right.
Name? Pilot G2?
Love that pen so much. It's ballpoint.
Yep.
Not like the Bic ones. Yeah, just one of those weird small things. I love the Sharpie fine point one as well, which I don't have another one lying around.
Those are really nice. Good, actually. Yeah.
But they're expensive, but Moleskine, love Moleskine. I have two of these, a black one and a green one, and it's just my go-to like notes for this episode. Just quickly write stuff down. Like this is just scripts for YouTube videos, notes for calls. I can always just grab one of these, and whenever I need to reference something that I wrote down or that I'm thinking creatively, you could just go to this, or it's sitting on a sticky note that's stuck onto my desk or it's still on the pad.
Yep.
And just a stack of different colors of sticky notes just ready to go.
It is so fun.
Yeah, like all of your design clients are just laid out on your desk, and like I see little tallies on each project, and it's your system.
It is.
I love that.
It's like a real life Trello board. Did you ever use the app Trello?
Yes.
It's like the tile based.
Yep.
It's like what a lot of people use Notion as now with all the
Right.
tiles that you can move. It's just in real life, and it's really fun.
I love that analog so much more than like Notion or Milanote or I love the tactile draw, do it this way because we're on screen so much.
Yes.
That like it's so nice to have administrative things be analog instead of still, because there's no way for you to do your photo editing analog,
Right.
Unless you're developing in a tray, like, so yeah, having that kind of control I've come to realize is much better for me, and it makes me more efficient to like actually write things out.
Completely agree.
Yeah. And just to cross things out.
Dude, it's so crumple a sticky note, throw it in the trash.
So good.
Oh, you did that task.
I fold it. I try to fold it perfectly.
And you make a crane?
No. I try to take the sticky and fold it so that there's no overlap of sticky.
Wow.
And then I'll like fold it as many times as I can, and then toss it.
And then you eat it. It's a snack.
And then I throw it in the fire as a sacrifice.
Goodbye, client. Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I think there are so many things that have to be on screens that any way that we can just avoid that is great. And I also feel like there is something that feels more real when it's written.
Yeah.
And something about just stuff getting lost in the digital ether when you're trying to manage your entire life digitally all the time. Because you lose track of stuff. Then it gets tucked away
money
in
your bank
subfolders.
account.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's not even real.
Yes. It just doesn't feel like it's an actual, it's weird. Like obviously in some cases it's useful because, to write out the amount of text that we need to for some YouTube videos, or to like when you incorporate shot deck stills into your scripts, like you can't do that in a notebook, but there's something that just feels better. It's a feel thing purely.
What's crazy, and this is like scary and sad to admit, that when I was first shooting weddings, I didn't even have a digital calendar. I kept it in a physical written calendar.
That's bananas.
Like an idiot.
Did you actually?
Yeah, but
like no Google Calendar or anything?
I eventually did. Because I was like, this is dumb.
Sure.
Like, I'm so screwed if I lose this thing. But it always stayed on my desk, and it was there at all times, ready to go. If I had a meeting, it went in the same place in my backpack. It was not, But I always equated it to like, this is how people used to function.
I was just about to say, I was like, that's how my mom kept track of our family's life.
Sorry,
always. Yeah.
It wouldn't be the end of the world if you lost it. Like you'd figure it out.
Yeah.
But it would suck.
Yep.
Because all of my contracts were digital at least. So I could read through all my contracts and figure out when things were, or like have to comb through emails. But it would give me anxiety the entire year, being like, I might be missing something.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I don't do that anymore. I don't do a calendar analog anymore, but I thought that was just kind of interesting.
I mean,
it was in the digital era.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it is funny. Like that used to be the only way that people kept track of their schedules, and that's just is what it is. So yeah.
I think there was more grace back then though for like things not like if you missed
that's
something.
probably true. Yeah.
Now it's like you don't have an excuse.
No, you don't. You got Google sending you 7 calendar reminders like, hey, you got something coming up in a week. 3 days. 30 minutes. It's now. You're supposed to be photographing the wedding
still miss it.
now.
No, not weddings, but
couldn't agree more. I as a little Easter egg to kind of close things out, I did bring my little floating kind of like desk organizer pouch. I have a video in the works about this specific thing in the way that it relates to my process with design in particular. I'm in love with this thing. It's incredible. It's from a company called Evergoods. It's called the CAP 2, the Civilian Access Pouch 2, which is
good name.
It is a really good name. Yeah. The reason I think it's one of the best designed products I've ever used is because unlike other tech pouches, it opens at a 45-degree angle, and then it creates this beautiful little triangle. And so you just sit it down like this, and suddenly you have everything that you need right at your fingertips. It's kind of like a command center that you can take anywhere. And I like it because it encourages me to keep all of the most essential things right here, because anytime I open it, I'm just going to see everything right here.
That it's there.
It's all right there, because rather than like always putting a little like tech pouch back into your backpack when you get to the office or the studio and reaching back in and grabbing stuff, this is just designed to be opened up and to stay open all day long until you go home. And that can be true for wherever you're going. You can go to a coffee shop, make it feel like you've got like a legit desk setup kind of thing. Everything essential is in here. The biggest things being, again, like you said, notebooks. I generally go for smaller notebooks across the board. This one from Leuchtturm 1917 is excellent. And then BenQ is another fun little one, just because I like it for design clients in particular. It's just colorful and it's fun.
Very Wes Anderson.
Yeah. And then, like laptop charger, USB-C cables, SSDs, a bunch of pens. Current favorite pens right now are from a company called Muji, MUJI. I absolutely love these. They have some kind of design in the tip of the pen that prevents it from ever getting dry, no matter how long you have the cap open for.
Whoa.
And I will say, I didn't know that before I got these pens, but I used them and I thought, wow, it's remarkable how I never have a dry spot on this pen ever. And then I read more about them, and it's like some patented like a tip design that they have for their pens that allows the nib to like always have ink on it and never be dry. And I totally believe it, because I didn't even know that was a thing until I started using it a ton. I was like, oh, well, that explains why it always feels like it's ready to go. So love these. These are like a more like Bic style pen, like you referenced earlier, but love them. I have a whole spiel that I'll make in an upcoming YouTube video for any of you who stuck around till the end. You know that is coming.
What was the name of the company for your hard drive enclosures?
Sabrent, S-A-B.
Dunder Mifflin and Sabrent.
Oh my gosh.
Do you always know when I'm trying to set you up for something like that?
It felt like it in that moment, but you disguised it on your face really well. I was like, no, I think it's
just my acting practice.
I thought you were just like, oh yeah, no, he just didn't mention it earlier. He just should clarify that. No,
Sabrent.
I should go downstairs now and just like gaff out the N and the T. So it's just Sabre. Dunder Mifflin and Sabre.
Saber.
Saber. Sabre.
You sure it's not Sabre?
No. Hearing all of their setups for things that rhyme with Sabre throughout that entire song is the best thing ever. Say,
gonna be a good day. Of Dunder Mifflin and Sabre.
Saber. Oh man. Okay, that was a great episode. That was a long episode too. Wow.
That was very long.
Look at that. That's crazy.
Oh, jeez.
That explains why I am parched. That was awesome. Good stuff. Maybe we'll include an update in a future episode about
my desk,
your desk, and kind of how it progresses and everything. Like we said earlier, we will include links to everything below, because we did cover a ton of stuff in this episode. So thanks for being here. Appreciate y'all. We will see you in next week's episode, and hope you have a great week.
Love you.
Love you. Goodbye.